So here we go. Episode 2 of a podcast without a name. And why do I say that? Beyond a reasonable doubt, right? That's how I wanted to originally call it. And I went into Google last night and YouTube to check out that name, Beyond Reasonable Doubt, to see if it was out there already as a podcast or whatever. And it's out there all over the place, right? And it is. It's talking all about the legal side of what Beyond Reasonable Doubt means and all the things that pertain to the legal side of it. There was one spiritual or faith based podcast that was Beyond Reasonable Doubt, but it just got me thinking about the core motives of where I want these podcasts to go, right? Who's my audience? You got to ask all these questions. If you learn one thing about me, it's I'm not a formal guy. I try to be structured. And I say try because my wife would admit this as well in a second. I'm like this, and then this, and then this. If I'm doing yard work, I'm doing some digging over there, and then I'll start cutting the grass and didn't finish the digging. That's the type of person I am. So this is very, very difficult for me to stare at a camera, which I'm going to put a picture of my daughter, I believe, behind it. So as if I'm talking to my daughter. That's really one of the motivations behind all this is to have a conversation with my daughter who is no longer here, but what I would have wanted to share to her and then share with you guys that whole story as well. So, bringing it back to the title, I have no idea. I've named my book, I've named these things. The book that I haven't organized yet, I believe it's written. I have a lot of stuff written. And what where am I going? What am I doing? And is this a podcast that's going to be without direction? So I do this. I pray before each one with you. And in my heart, Lord, let this be what you want it to be. Let your Holy Spirit lead us to where you want us to go and how you want me to share this story and how this whole thing goes down. Another aspect of all this podcast and all these things I'm doing, all these ideas in my head and in my heart, has to do with time. Time moves so fast. And I believe, obviously, every day that goes by is a day closer to when we meet our Maker, wherever you are in your life, with regards to eternity and where you'll go when it's all done, even if you believe that or not. There's going to be an end. And I see that. I just had a friend of ours, brother-in-law, just passed away. Young, our age. Unbelievable. In his 50s, right? Mid 50s, whatever. Horrible. Why? Heart attack, right? Gone. Just talked to his sister. Boom. An hour later, he was passed away in the hospital. So it's time we don't have on our side. Isn't there a song like that? I don't know. Anyway, see, that's what I'm talking about, right? That's that digging and then all of a sudden cutting the lawn. Be that as may, there's a whole lot of life that happened. And in that life, God continued to show himself not only in some incredible, what I consider miraculous ways, but in subtle ways as well. And he brought me the people. He brought people into my life that he wanted in my life. I don't believe in coincidences. Let's get that straight right off the bat. Oh, look, it just so happened. Oh, it's luck. No, that's another whole topic. I got another whole thing on that. And it just happened the other day. And I write about everything. It's all either in an iPad or it's on my phone. It's somewhere. Will I ever be able to share all of it? I don't know. And that's why I decided this morning, I was like, Lord, lead this. I'm going to get on here. I'm going to record me sharing with you life, um, my life, and things in my life that have happened that I believe may benefit you in a sense of holding on to your faith, your hope in Him, where you'll have peace in the midst of craziness. I'm talking extreme craziness. And that if you rely on Him with all your heart, and that's what we talk about, Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. It's so important to do that. It's insane because this life is crazy. So, where to go to first? We were talking about in the first episode, we were talking about how I went to jury duty and how that brought up a whole flood of emotion. Thoughts running rampant, me sitting there nervous. I don't know if nervous is the right word. Maybe. Not really nervous, but then yesterday I was thinking I was happy to be there. I was happy to experience that. I was happy to be able to see that side of it. What do I mean by that? There may be times where I may be going 1,000 miles an hour on this conversation with you. What does that mean? I've been through a lot, like I've said, and I've been through the experience of courtroom drama firsthand. I won't get deep into that because that's going to be something that has to take a while. When I explained it to my now wife, then girlfriend, it takes hours. And then people really just, some people don't understand. They don't get it. They don't understand how it could happen. And neither could I at the time. But we're going to go down that road as well because it's a story that has to be told based on encouragement, hope, peace. And maybe that's what I need to name it, something that has to do with that, because that's really what I want the core of all this to be. That you'll find hope, peace, and joy in the midst of a storm. And that the storm, you don't have to ride out alone. So, back to what did I tell you? Back to being in court. I was happy to be there, in a sense. As I was driving home yesterday, I had to turn on my phone, put on the microphone, and start speaking this out. And I'll hit that topic now since we're on the jury and the court and everything else that I experienced this jury duty thing. I say I was happy to be there because it felt like a freedom that I was sharing with an active judge 3 feet away from her looking into my eyes and I'm looking into hers, and the prosecutors and the defense attorney, that I could share with them in a matter of only a few minutes the rundown of my life and my experience in a courtroom like that. And then in the end, I shared, and I said, let me take another second of your time and just tell you what happened in the end. And I wrote about it. It says they were, I don't want to say nice, but they were thoughtful. They were respectful. They had a facial expressions of, I'm sorry you had to go through that. And the judge looked at me like she had compassion on what I had to go through all that. And that hasn't been my experience in the courtroom, to see those facial expressions, to have those words come out of their mouths. No offense taken. Completely understand. All those things. It was pretty incredible to experience, and maybe, again, nothing happens by coincidence. There are no just things that just happen. I believe God had all that in line for me to experience that. And then 2 days later, I decide to start this thing. Do I really want to sit here and talk to a camera? I do, but it's not my thing. Should I do it this way, do it that way? I have a ton of questions. And I get distracted by the laptop I'm looking at right here. And I get distracted by things. So stick with me. I will tell my story here. And it's not my story, it's God's story. And we will go through a lot. I do want to just share with you what I had written when I first got to the courtroom. So if you bear with me, it's actually what I wrote when I was in the jury room when I first got there. And this is on Monday. It says jury duty. What a crazy wave of different feelings and emotions. Seeing so many here, it makes me think back on when it was our time to pick jurors. So many different people, different ages, genders, personalities. It really feels surreal. Not sure if that's the right word. I'm sitting in one seat of about 100 in the room, and it's filling up fast as they check in. My heart's pounding heavier than normal for sure. As much as my nerves are freaking out, there's still a level of curiosity on this process, and I'll take it as an experience. So many people, it's very strange emotions. As I sit here looking over this room, I'm doing two things: praying for all who are in this room for what may be happening in their lives right now, and that many of these hearts may not know Jesus. I'm also wondering if, given the opportunity, could I speak in front of them about my story and the importance of being open and impartial to what they're about to experience. 12 of them convicted me with no evidence and just a mother's narrative being told to them. 12 of them listened and understood when we were given the opportunity to tell them the truth of all that was about the facts of our case. There's such a crazy mix of emotions and thoughts. I'm praying for each heart here that they would know God through His Son, that we have clarity of purpose, not about me, but about eternity and the real reason for life here on this earth. The story to expose truth and the immense importance of being open to hear those who speak at these trials, a jury of our peers. 12 of them convicted an innocent man. 12 of them heard and listened to what actually happened through all the lies and lack of investigation. And there's more prayers for each heart here. Right now, this room is filled with about 70 people, 70 hearts, actually 77 right now. I counted them like 3 times over and over. I kept losing count, but kept going back. And as I sat there and waited, I counted. The New Jersey court system video recording bias. It was great to watch. Gives me a better understanding of this process. We had to watch a video. And then I wrote, remember to write about how my friend Don responded to when I told him it was God's protection that provided me perfect protection on the inside. He kept saying how lucky I didn't get this and get that. He's lucky I didn't get stabbed and having those types of charges while in general population. I told him luck had nothing to do with it. And he smirked and laughed. I don't believe that. God's angels were with me every second. Now I'm starting to get into things. You're like, oh, what happened to this guy? All right, it's 11:30. Break for jury, coffee time. They just went through everyone who had a hardship and couldn't serve. The next is the voir dire process, questions that may qualify or disqualify a potential juror. We were on a break, and I look out to the remaining jurors. About 30 were already gone. How would they be able to pick 12 or 14 actually out of the crowd that can give this guy a fair trial? And I'm just thinking, there's no way. Maybe that Maybe that is where my past experience take me. How can anyone get one? Meaning fair trial. Maybe this is his second trial, like mine. Just brutal to think about, but I'm trying to focus on what God wants me to experience in all of this. And then I wrote on the bottom, what would be the main purpose of all my writing? And I shared with you that earlier. All this stuff I hold on to, all the documents and transcripts. I have so many totes down the basement of all my transcripts, writing, um, court documents, evidence, whatever. Evidence meaning what I presented. Um, and the videos I just watched of the trials. Yes, I just converted some videos of the trials that I've been in my past, the two, and all the years of going through this. As you can tell, this is not going to be like a simple one podcast, two podcast or episodes, I mean, of explaining my story. But like I said earlier, my prayer, and it's always my prayer, and that's what I love about God, is because He knows our hearts, He knows our motives, He knows our intentions, He knows why we're doing things, right? He knows our thoughts, He knows our hearts, and that's that. I'm going to slam that home every day, because that can be either the most comforting thing in this world, or it can be the most frightening for the people who just don't care, you know. Um, I've shared a few things in this that you're probably wondering, wow, what was this? What's this all about, man? We'll get into it. But again, God is in control. God allows things to happen in our lives, and He already knows the outcome. And I've shared that so many times, that we know what's happening here, and we want something here, but God already knows what's going on all the way down the road. He knows how it ends up. 5, 10, 20 years from now, He knows where it ends up, and we have no idea. And we may, it's a Bible verse, we may make our plans, but the Lord directs our steps. Either way, if we remain faithful and we remain focused on Him and what He wants, He may take us in a totally different direction we have no clue about. And that's what He does. And that's where I see it, including jury duty and me not being able to be excused from it. And then all of a sudden experiencing all that, going through those emotions and those feelings, and that just the hands shaking, just like shaking without even anything. I don't even know how to put it. But there's a glimpse on what this is going to be all about. Beyond a Reasonable Doubt will probably be a chapter in my book, because I don't want it to be the focus. I want it to be just a part of how all this has gone down. So, again, thank you for watching. I believe those who need to be here, want to be here, have a desire to hear more, and they'll be here. That God will direct those who want and need and have a desire to listen and understand. There are many that won't, and that's okay, because I always say this, and I said it on the inside, and I'll say it on the outside. God will bring those to you who need to hear. And if it was only for one that accepts Him, He calls us to be disciples and to share. So I'll share. and I'll give my testimony in length, I guess, because this is going to be lengthy. But I'll share. And if only one, if just one, accepts him and gets to heaven, it's worth 1,000 times over. So, you know the motive. I just want to make sure the motive is clear of what I'm doing here and why. It's not for me. It's not for anything but to share what God has done through my life and give my testimony in length of not only what he did through the jury process, but way back in the beginning when I was living for myself and I had my own plans. And God drastically allowed things to happen in my life to turn that around, to change my life forever. So, thank you for watching. Stick with us and reach out to me. I'll have my information on the bottom somewhere. Somewhere in this mix, I'll have it. But reach out, make a comment, ask a question, and I'll do my best to just have that one-on-one with you and others if he brings them. It's all for his glory, not for mine. Thanks for watching.